Hi guys, it's Jessie. Hey, just wanted to jump in and apologise that this episode's taken a few weeks to come out. We got caught up in all the Christmas craziness, but I just also wanted to give a trigger warning. I'm super proud of Kirsty for sharing this story, but just to let you all know, it did sit pretty heavy with me for a couple of weeks. There's things in this episode that I only found out during the episode. So if things like DV and not being supported by your partner is going to be triggering for you, please feel free to skip this episode. I even went to Kirsty and asked if she really wanted it released, but she said it's a really important story and she wants to share it with the world. So we hope that you'll feel less alone or gain some perspective on other people's lives. And if you are either of our daughters or a child listening to this, this is not a child recommended episode. So please don't listen to this. You can hear the story when you're older. Other than that, thank you all. Be blessed and enjoy the episode.
Okay, we're here. We've started.
Welcome to Unpolished. Apparently, we don't welcome people enough. We just kind of start yabbering.
Yeah, apparently. Do you feel, just leave us a comment on our thing if you feel welcomed now.
If you feel welcome.
Welcome.
Welcome. We are so glad you're here.
Also, thanks for listening, because I feel like it's just been a bit of a whirlwind, you know?
It has been a whirlwind, and I actually want to start the episode by doing a bit of a shameless plug, because, yeah, we would really like to continue this. We've had a lot of positive feedback, mostly from people we know. So, I mean, all of our friends could just be flattering us. But we'd really like to be able to do this long term, and part of that is Spotify will pay us if we have enough subscribers and listener hours and all of those kind of things. So
We're not meant to disclose that part. Like, that wasn't our aim, but if we...
nothing can happen without money.
Yeah, it's true. So if you want us to, get our nails done one day, subscribe.
No, it's like my dream. We could make enough money that you could just hang out at church with me all the time instead of having to have another job.
Yeah.
It's full-time ministry because the podcast can pay for it.
That's the dream.
Anyways, separate to all that, we also think that these stories are important. And I think particularly your story, Kirsty, and your testimony that kind of came out over the episode about 2020. A lot of people were really moved by that. These are stories that I'm really enjoying sharing because they're not really, it's very different for me than preaching.
Yeah.
And sharing from a platform. And so these stories of how God is moving in people's lives, we're hopeful to get some guests in as we move along and things like that. They're really important stories. And so we really appreciate you listening. We really appreciate it if you can subscribe, share, all of those bits and pieces, because we'd love for this to be a sustainable thing we can keep doing into 2026 and beyond.
Yeah.
Woohoo.
So good.
Cool. Well, I think we had said in the next episode we were going to talk about what both of our experiences were in becoming mothers.
Yeah.
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 Did you forget that?
Yeah, a little bit, yeah.
That's okay. But first, I just wanted to talk to you about a couple of things. One that we kind of discussed, but then I was like, let's talk about that on the podcast. So there's a song that's been trending, and I sing it baby, where the heck's my husband? But people will know.
Yeah.
I should really get you to sing because I can't.
It was fun. It was in tune.
It was in tune. There you go. So I just think this song is really interesting because in a world that's super woke and super, women can do everything and you don't need a husband and it's all right to have a career before you have children and all of that kind of stuff, which we're probably going to unpack a little bit, given that none of us really even had a life before we had children. I just think it's really interesting. And I did a bit of a little Google and all the rest. She's not a Christian, probably not. I mean, the word hell is in the song quite flippantly. Just this idea that actually there's this deep desire within a woman to marry and to make a family and to have that traditional way of life, and the fact that it's gone viral and is being celebrated, I think is really cool.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've got anything to add.
Well, I don't know what the point you were getting at with that, but it's we did not do that. We kind of didn't get careers and then have kids. We kind of had kids and then just kind of made our jobs after that.
I think I just pay attention when things go viral or things pop up in society and they're the opposite of what the general media and general society is telling young people.
Yeah.
So general society is like, oh, yeah, like you can get married if you want. It's just a piece of paper. There's all the time in the world to do it. Don't rush things. You've got all the fertility in the world, which is a whole other rant I could go on.
Amen, sister.
All of these things. So it's interesting when something pops up that is actually quite anti that. Like that's pretty all the opposite of the message out there.
Yeah.
To say, you know, it's good to want a husband. It's good to want these things. So she's speaking to something I think is like a God-given desire in every woman's heart, which is to be with a man, to build a family, to be that helpmate. So I think it's interesting.
Yeah, that is interesting. If that song was out when I was 19, I reckon maybe I would have like made it my anthem rather than like, you know, you'll probably hear about it more as we go along with this episode.
It's a good little segue. Hey, it's a good segue.
Yeah, right. Yeah, but like if that song was out then, I probably would have been like, actually, let's get a job. Let's finish that youth work degree that I had started and didn't continue. And
how many half-done degrees do you have?
3.
Oh, I think I'm...
Which they're all different. They're all different too.
I think I've got 3 that I didn't finish and then one I have finished and now I'm back doing more of it.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Yeah. I studied youth work for about it was a 2-year course and I did about 9 months of it and then
Was that to be a chaplain?
No, it was just, I actually wanted to, I really wanted to, I don't know, I wanted to like, you know how, I don't know if it's like an Australia-wide thing, but I know that in Adelaide there's like a thing that's like Genesis pregnancy care and it's like, you know, teen parents and people who are like low socioeconomic, like struggling, they've just, you know, been through horrible, they're a pro-life organisation sort of thing. And so they just kind of create all that kind of stuff. And I really wanted to do that. Like I wanted to do that with teens that, you know, accidentally fell pregnant and didn't realise that that's actually an entire life choice. Like not only for you, but for the unborn child. And it just supports them doing that sort of stuff. So like I wanted to support them through that kind of stuff. And that's what I wanted to do. And then like when I was in high school, I was like, no, math class is stupid because all I want to do is be a nanny. Oh, I said that weird. a nanny.
Oh, did you?
Yeah. Like all I wanted to do in high school was just kind of finish school, graduate, and then go be a nanny somewhere else in another country. But that I didn't have the financial.
That's a shame. You would have been good at that. So
anyway.
Yeah, I don't know where we want to really start, whether you want to kind of share your story of how Scarlett came into the world or whether you want me to go first.
Would you want to rock, paper, scissors? We're not recording today, so it's like, it's not funny to kind of put it in a video.
We're not filming, no.
Yeah.
We are recording. All right, rock, paper, scissors.
All right, ready?
1, 2, 3.
Oh, sorry, I'm really bad at rock, paper, scissors.
Okay, 1, 2, 3. You win.
All right,
yeah,
okay.
You got paper, I got rock.
All right, okay, I won. I'm really bad at rock, paper, scissors too, but I also cheat and I wait for them to put... I'm a very competitive person, but I always wait for the person to put theirs up and then at the split second, then I decide what I'm going to do. That's how I win. Anyway, I didn't win on purpose. You could have
just said I want to go first.
Oh no, I didn't intentionally win that time.
Okay.
Okay, so all right, let's start off. All right, you've heard that. Okay, so when I was 19, I kind of like did the whole run around, chase the boy sort of situation. And yeah, that was like pretty intense. I don't know, like I started uni, one of the degrees. That was a good segue too. I started uni. And I just remember sitting, it was like the first or second session. And if my friends from this course are listening, you'll remember this time because everyone laughed. but like we were singing and we were singing a worship song, like just to kind of, I think it was like to get started of the session. So we're sitting there and I was just kind of sitting on the floor and I was singing. And then this random guy that rocked up late just kind of was like, wow, your voice is incredible. Aww. And I just kind of was like, thanks. And everyone else just lost it laughing. Or like, that was like, everyone was silent and he just went, wow. And then so he kind of dropped out mid-year and went elsewhere. That's his story, not mine. He went elsewhere and then, like a year or so later, then I was like, oh, I'll reconnect with this guy that thought that my voice was amazing and blah, blah, blah. And then I did, not realizing that this guy was like, the reason why he went away was actually because he was struggling with alcoholism and, all that kind of stuff. And I was like, this guy, it's the first guy that's ever paid me attention,
Yeah.
And so I just kind of like jumped at it. And he was actually not the greatest person, as as, most of my friends know, and family. And so it's like, it was like really, it just kind of happened really fast. And I was like, oh yeah, all my friends are like getting married the second that, like, there was a massive culture where people were like dating.
Find a husband.
What?
Find a husband.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like, so we knew, like we were friends during this period, not like super close like we are now, but friends. And it was like almost that the goal was to find a husband and get married as young as possible.
Yeah.
And what's really interesting is we were both in that culture. We both made that decision and it had two very different outcomes.
Yeah.
And that's definitely not about shaming anybody, particularly you.
Yeah.
But I think something can be really good and healthy, but then if it goes too far, and I think this is just like such human nature, is we swing so far the other way. There was also like a huge amount of like 2000s kind of purity culture.
Yeah.
That like having sex was the worst thing that you could ever do. So people are like, all right, well, we'll
outside of marriage.
Yeah. So we'll just like, we'll solve that by getting married with like no lead in, no nothing.
Yeah.
Like we'll just tie the knot as quick as possible. So it was a really interesting time. Sorry, carry on.
No, that's all right. So I just kind of thought, well, everyone else is doing it. Like I'll do that too.
Yeah.
And then so I didn't and I just kind of was like completely oblivious to it. I was like, is this this norm for everyone?
Did he propose?
Yeah.
Yeah. So he did lead it in a way.
There was, okay, this is strictly for the pod now. Okay, I don't know if I've told you this. Okay, so like the night that he'd proposed, I was like, oh, I'm so done. I'm like done. I'm so over like the tenseness of like everyone in my family and, all that kind of stuff. And then one of my sisters had been invited to do music at a church thing in the Adelaide Hills. And she just kind of said, oh, well, I haven't caught up with you for ages, so would you want to come and hang out? And I was like, oh, okay. Yeah. And so I went, and then that entire time I just kind of was like, and this is crazy, because like...
Are you crying?
No, I'm not yet. I'm about to. Where's the tissue? We don't even have a table set up. But I was like that night, and I just like think back. I'm like, if I hadn't have done this, I wouldn't be a parent, I don't think. Or maybe I would have, but, with probably someone completely different. Yeah. And so, like, I remember going to this thing and then being like, I just remember sitting there listening to, like, just all this live Christian music and then just kind of going, nah, tonight I'm going to do it. I'm just going to break up with him. I'm just going to kick him out of the house and just break up with him. And then, so I was just like, oh, I just can't, and so I went home. It would have been like 10 o'clock that night. I went home and he'd like proposed to me, but then like used the bottom of a catalogue and drew a ring and then kind of like cut it out and then gave that to me. And then that was his proposal. And so I was like, yeah, okay. Like there goes all my plans. Like, I think maybe he knew, and that's probably why he panicked and probably did that.
Yeah.
And then I kind of went into this, oh, great, okay, well, I've got to plan a wedding now and do all that kind of stuff, because how embarrassing would it be for me to say no? Like, I don't want that to cause friction between me and him. Like,
so we'll get married.
Like, what an idiot. Anyway.
So you had this kind of revelation that you needed to break up with him.
Yeah.
Came home to a proposal.
Yeah.
And then was like, sure.
Yeah. So I just kind of went, yeah. And then, it just, continued after that. And then, it was like 6 months later, and all his family were really happy because, like, they were happy that he'd settled down, or, quote unquote.
Yeah.
Settled down with a normal person that wasn't a psycho. I don't think you're allowed to say that online, but anyway, are you allowed to say that?
I don't know whether that's a word that's...
I don't know. I was talking about myself. Wasn't a psycho. But yeah, so I just kind of was like, oh yeah, okay. And then his family were like, oh, this is wonderful, this is great, blah, blah, blah. We're waiting for him to... Yeah, but then my family were just like, it needs to stop. Make it stop. We can't do it. And everyone, like, it was literally like... It was like...
I was privy to a couple of those arguments and conversations in your family, because part of that whole thing was he really did isolate you.
Yeah.
And so I was quite good friends with some of your sisters at the time.
Yeah.
And they were like... It's like, do you... I think for me it was like, you're going to do this either way, so we might as well be supportive.
Yeah.
Because otherwise there's no relationship, like, it's not worth destroying relationship over. And I think a lot of your sisters kind of felt the same.
Yeah. Yeah. So, like, I was just kind of like, oh, everyone else can just shut up. And so I just kind of blocked it out and just was like, I'm doing the right thing, because if I don't do this, he's going to get angry and I'm going to get hurt, So, like, and it wasn't a great situation. Like, I just remember, like, we'd then moved out of, I was living at my parents' house, and then, like, I'd let him live with me at my parents' house. Mm. And then, so then we were like, found accommodation in Adelaide.
Yep.
And I just remember there was a time, and this is like, okay, sorry if you guys are like triggered by this.
I think
talking
we'll
about this.
Some trigger warnings.
Yeah, good. Okay,
episode. Yeah.
So, all right. So we were.
But also, you don't like have to share anything you don't want to share. Like, this is going on the internet, so.
Yeah, fair. All right. Okay. All right. So I'll just kind of talk in code, because then
Yeah, and
like,
I think
not
the point
like
of this is
code,
like,
but like I'll dull it down for people
out
if
of
they don't want to.
pretty hectic stuff.
Yeah.
The blessing that is Scarlett came about.
Yeah. So like it was like just after, so we got married, and then just
Your
kind
wedding
of like
was funny too.
The wedding was weird. It was like
super weird, and I love you, but I was like, what? Because you were like, which I think is a perfectly valid way to get married on the cheap.
Yeah.
So you had like a reception in this forest, and the pastor at the time, I just remember the general essence of the ceremony was he was trying to convince everybody this wasn't just an absolute train wreck.
Yeah.
And then we all went to the pub for dinner, and I think maybe your dad put some money on the bar. I don't really remember. And then afterwards you were like, I should start a business where I help people have budget weddings. I was like, oh, maybe. Anyways, so that's just my little...
Anyway, frontal cortex hadn't developed.
No, and this is, that's the crazy thing, hey.
It's like, how many stupid things can you do before your frontal cortex closes over?
Yeah.
And, I'm on like, I like take the cake, I think, you know.
So you guys are newlyweds. You moved half an hour, 45 minutes from everybody you knew.
Yeah. Yeah, and then so there was a day where he'd had too much to drink, and then, push came to shove, and he was quite like physical towards me. And so I went to leave, and like he ended up chasing after the car, and all that kind of stuff. It was pretty intense. And
Yeah.
that's probably the most detail that I'll probably give the pod.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, that's, it was intense. And I just remember going to my
was not
friend's
good.
house. And I'm going to get a shout out to Britt because she was always like, Kirsty, it's okay. Like, I kind of saw it coming, but are you okay?
Yeah.
Which I love her for. Anyway, so and now I'm like tearing up because she's like amazing. And if you're hearing it, Britt, just like salute yourself in your car or something because you are good. Yeah, but like, yeah. And so this would have been like March, like just after the wedding, I reckon. And then, my timeline's way off. Anyway,
I don't think it really matters. But
anyway, it doesn't
some
matter.
point-
My timeline's way off. But then I just remember we moved from that place into a share house sort of situation that we found on Gumtree.
Oh, shout out to Gumtree. Gumtree used to be so good.
Yeah, right. So we lived in this share house, and it was just kind of like just some older guy had this old investment property that he probably inherited at some point because it was that old. And he just kind of like put locks on every door and just kind of like, here's your key to your bedroom. And then that
Super
was
weird.
it. Yeah. And so we lived there together. And then, yeah, we lived there together. And then a month after we'd gotten married, it was my 21st birthday. And I was like, everyone was like, drink. But I just didn't feel like drinking. And I was like, nah, I don't really feel like it. And I was like, he's drunk, like talking about my ex-husband. Like, he's had a bit to drink. And then I was my family had did this kind of like trying to olive branch birthday party sort of for me for my 21st, going, it's Kirsty's 21st. Let's make it special for her.
Yeah.
And, then he came along too, and then all I remember is, all I remember, and if there's men listening, sorry, but all I remember is, wow, my boobs are huge, and and then like looking back, and then like every 2 seconds, my ex was like somewhere vomiting because he'd had too much to drink.
Yeah.
And it was really like the entire relationship, he had a drinking problem, just constantly. And so, yeah, then I was just kind of like, yeah, he's all right. And all my family were like, is he actually? And I just kind of was like, just don't worry about it, because I was over it by that point. I was just kind of like, I just wanted to.
Yeah. And I think as well, when a loved one is in a situation like that, I understand the throwing of your birthday party and these different things, because you almost feel like if you don't put that bit of effort in, you're just going to lose them altogether.
Yeah.
And you'll just like never see them again.
Yeah. I'm not crying.
No, it's okay. So I
You looked at me like
I'm just
you're about to
salty.
cry.
I don't know where my invite was to this party.
Anyway, so we were there, and then like what was it, like a week or two later, so my dad worked away, and so my mum went with him, and I think it was like where they were. I think they were Roxby Downs or something, something like that. But they were there, and so like I remember one day calling my mum, and I was like late for my period.
Yeah.
And I was like only like a day or two late, and I'd called her, and I just remember sitting in my car because I wanted a private conversation with her. I was like, Mum, I think I might be pregnant. Like this is nuts. Like, what do I do? And she was like, oh, really? Oh, and I was like, no. Like, she's like, have you taken a test? And I was like, no, I don't. No, because I was living off of Centrelink.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't have the money for it. I've got to wait for payday. And so then, as you do, and I don't have shame about having to rely on government payments.
No.
But it's just like at the same time, I was in that kind of situation where I was like, all I could afford was, the $400 a fortnight from, the government. And so I was like, oh no, I've just got to wait. So I waited an entire week.
Wow.
I was 7 days late for my cycle, and I remember walking, because I didn't live far away from the supermarket. So I remember walking down to the supermarket and buying a test and then going back home. And I bought a pack of 3 because I was like, oh, well, you know, if I need them now, like, you know, if one comes up negative or whatever, I'll just, you know, retest in the morning or whatever. Like, you know, I'll have more for the future. And then I was like, I just remember coming home and not saying anything to anyone, like, at all. And I was in a share house, so it was like, there was like...
How many people live there?
There was one guy that lived upstairs, and then there was a guy that lived in the room across the hall, but then he occasionally had boyfriends that came in and out and all that.
Okay.
Yeah, it was like a whole thing. And then me and him, that was it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
so then the test was...
I remember just going to the toilet and then, you know, I came back out and I literally just saw it literally develop instantly. I saw it pop up and I was like, oh my gosh. Like, I actually freaked out. And I just remember going into like our room, and then he was just like, I don't know, playing PlayStation or something silly. Maybe Xbox. I don't know. I don't know.
It's all a bit blurry.
It's all, yeah. But I just remember walking in and then showing him. But then I was like actually excited, like, whoa, something cool that I wanted was actually happening to me, like, after all this time. And I just remember walking in and I was jumping up and down on the bed going like, it's actually real. And then I just remember him literally... I showed him, like, just literally a random glance, and then I still held on to it while I was jumping, and then I, like, held on to it, like, so close to my chest, and then he was just like, what do I do? Like, and that's all he could say was, what do I do? And I was just like, oh, like, be happy? Like,
because was he working at all?
No.
Okay.
So, yeah, so he was just like, what do I do? Like, I can't raise a kid. Like, and I get it now. Like, he was actually still a kid himself. You know, frontal cortex still hadn't.
Is he the same age as us?
I think he was born in 1990.
Yeah, okay.
91. I can't remember now.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's really bad.
Really
anyway, yeah, so he was like, what do I do? And then that was it. Like, this can't be happening. And then I just kind of went through this entire pregnancy of like, oh, hey, do you want to come to the appointments with me? And he was like, no, I'll just stay at home.
I think as well to clarify, in South Australia, in Adelaide at that time, so we're talking like 2012, 2013, it was really hard to find work.
Yeah.
Like, there was a genuine job shortage.
Yeah.
I knew so many people that were unemployed.
Yeah.
Most of them was not a choice. It was just a...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So he didn't go to any appointments?
No. So, like, only some if I'd really, like, actually begged him to.
Yeah.
And I just kind of gone, come on, like, I'm so tired of going through these by myself. Like, there's people that literally have, like, go in the waiting room. You go in the waiting room and you're the only one in there, like, going to have an ultrasound, but you're the only one there by yourself.
Yeah.
You know, everyone else has their significant others or their families or their, like, you know, they've got someone to tell. But I just kind of went in there by myself and I just pretty much, like...
I hate that. I would have gone with you.
It's all right. Now I'm going to cry about it because now you're like, oh, I hate that.
Well, like... Yeah, I think part of this story is I just remember being like, where did Kirsty go? Because, like I said, we weren't like,
I was really good at hide and seek.
We weren't like super close, but we were always like in the same social circles, always like friends. And so it was just like this random person disappeared. Yeah. And I would get like updates because I was at one of your sister's houses every other weekend. Sorry, I'm not like...
I'm okay.
I feel like people are going to listen to this and think I'm just this evil person setting you up to cry.
Just cry every single time.
The story does get better, I promise. But I just remember being like, well, where did Kirsty go? And then I do. I hear those stories. I'm like, had you rung me? I would have been like, well, that's a bit weird. We're not super close, but yeah, I'll come to your ultrasound. Anyways, go on, please.
Anyway, so I went to all these doctor's appointments and ultrasounds and all that kind of stuff by myself. And the only time he did come was to try and prove me wrong with the gender scan, which I was just like, you're an idiot. You know, he was like, we only make boys and there's only boys in my bloodline and blah, blah, blah. And I was just like, All right, good on you. All right, just come to the thing, because I knew. So before I found out that I was pregnant, I had it was the week that I found out that I was pregnant, or maybe I can't remember the exact timeline, but I just remember having this dream, and it was like a weird, vivid dream. And I just remember being having this dream, and it was I'd had this baby in a pram, and it was blonde hair, blue eyes, and its name was Scarlet Rose. And I was just oh my gosh. Then I remember waking up and being oh my gosh, that felt really weird. Really real. Really weird and real.
Yeah.
It felt ridiculously real. And then I remember waking up and being whoa, what was that? That's I've never had a dream like that. And then I just kind of was oh, okay, all right. And so then I still had a faith. I was still a part of a church, and I just was oh, I'll just pray about it, And
somewhere in all of that as well, that church stopped existing.
Yeah,
that's a whole other story.
So that's within this story.
That's too, quite a bit of turmoil for you as well.
Yeah,
the kind of one support network he kind of allowed you to have.
Yeah,
ceased to exist.
Just ended. Yeah, but yeah. So I had this dream, then I was and then I think it might have even been the night before I took the pregnancy test, that I'd had this dream.
Yeah.
And so then I was just this is weird. This is actually really strange to kind of have that dream and then feel like it was real, but then knowing what was going on, in my head about, I think I might be pregnant. And just kind of going, well, I think I am. I actually, I don't feel normal. I haven't had my period. I don't feel normal.
For sure.
And yeah, so I'd had this dream that, that I'd had this baby and all that kind of stuff. And then, it ended up becoming a real thing, which is how I ended up naming Scarlet, is because of that dream.
Yeah.
Because I was I had never thought of that name ever prior. At all. And I just was how bizarre that I have a dream that I've just called this random baby in a dream Scarlet, but then I've gone, oh, well, actually.
And the thing is, some people you meet and you're your parents did a shocking job naming you, not just because of weird names, but sometimes I meet people and it irks my brain because I'm your name does just not match you. But Scarlet's the opposite of that. She is Scarlet.
Yeah.
It's just her name. That's who she is. It's perfect for her.
Yeah. Yeah, so I went through the pregnancy with just essentially by myself, and then I was come on, you've got to be there for the birth. You've got to be there for, all these other new parents in the hospital were having their partners and their the kids' dads or whatever staying in the hospital for the week.
Did you do the birthing classes or anything?
So we had one birthing class.
Yeah.
We went to one. And then they just kind of said, oh, you're irrelevant because I was already scheduled in for a C-section. And so it was a weird situation. Yeah. It was really strange. And I just kind of was oh, well, I'm just going to not go because they said, oh, we'll let you know when the next one is, but they just never let us know when the next one was either. Yeah. And they were oh, you've got to learn about aftercare of, your C-section stuff and all that kind of stuff. And I was just okay. But they're oh, well, a nurse can call you instead. And so I don't know if we if we somehow got kicked out of so it came to that one. But then I think it was because it was in a different hospital, the hospital that we weren't going to birth in either. Yeah. Okay. And they were just kind of well, there's no point touring you of this hospital because you're not going to birth here. So Scarlett's fetal measurements and stuff were in the 90th percentile. So they were she's too big. You've got to go to a bigger hospital.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. So they just kind of were well, just stick at the hospital that you're doing all your appointments at. And I was well, that's what I was saying. Anyway. Yeah. And so then I remember being 32 weeks pregnant. And then they got me to do a measuring scan or whatever it was. And then they were well, your baby is estimated to be born a 10-pound baby. And I was well, and then they were so you can choose to either start naturally and end up in the surgery, end up in the theatre because, you know, your baby's gotten stuck, or you can just start in the surgery, in the theatre, and then...
And how big was she in the end?
She ended up being 8'13", so nearly 9 pounds.
Yeah, Henry was 8'12".
Yeah. Yeah. But she was also 2 weeks, which was 38 and 6. So she was...
Oh, wow. Okay, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So she was,
So had you gone to like 40 weeks?
She would have been bigger.
Big baby.
Yeah. But she was really little though too. Like she had like, her length was small, but her circumference was large.
Chunky monkey.
Yeah. She had like double fat rolls on her thighs. Like, you know, like it was like crease, leg. Like it was just... It was pretty funny. But yeah, so she like, and forever, like I reckon until she was like 3, the thighs kind of actually thinned out and like smoothed out and didn't have like a crease in them anymore. Which was cute. I thought that was cute.
I remember her being that chunky, but
she wasn't that chunky, but her legs were.
Yeah, okay.
Like she wasn't like a chubby baby, but she was like, her legs were just like, that's where all her weight stayed.
Yeah.
And even now she's just like, you know, she's got a nice, like, feminine figure, but then her legs are just like, they're just there. But it's fine. She's all right. She's a child of mine, so that's fine. You need thighs to kick people sometimes, maybe. I don't know. I don't commend violence.
So Scarlett was born.
Yeah, so she was born, and I had just had, you know, a C-section, literally my entire body just sitting on the surgery table. And then they just kind of was like, yep, okay. I'd had her, and then like it was like an hour or two I'd gone into onto the ward, like the postnatal ward. And then he just kind of was like, oh, I've got to go do some things. I'm going to go. I'm like, okay, no worries. And then so like I was there from... like for 4 days because I'd had a C-section, 4 days by myself. And I just was like, you know, every now and then I'd call him and be like, I'm actually like, I feel sad about this. Like, you know, when you have a baby and you get your baby blues afterwards.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like that was like complete high on steroids because it was like, you know, I was just like, I just couldn't. I wasn't emotionally capable. So the nurses were like, oh, is Dad coming back? I'm like, I don't know.
What an idiot.
You're only just hearing about this now.
Yeah,
but like,
also, I mean, given the other things that I do know, it doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, yeah. So he was just like, I'll come back. And then...
But I just also wonder, like, obviously there was nobody decent speaking into his life.
Yeah.
You just wonder, like, I don't know, where was his family members? And I know that's all complicated and all the rest, but it just makes me sad that there was no one in his life that was like, you need to be in the hospital with your wife who's just had a baby.
Yeah.
Like, nobody else in your world was able to step in and say, I know that this is overwhelming and you're young and whatever else.
Yeah.
But you need to quit drinking and man up and be in the hospital and all those things. But maybe there was and he just didn't listen. Who knows?
Yeah. Who knows? But yeah, so he just kind of didn't rock up until the day that I was discharged from the hospital. And I just remember walking out of the hospital, I was like, so are you going to carry some things? And I was like, just like was holding this baby. And this is really like, I'm glad that we're going to have like a trigger warning on this thing.
Because if you're listening to this and you're thinking, like any of this sounds familiar or whatever, like that's not normal.
Yeah, or okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I was like,
you shouldn't have to ask your support person to carry things when you've just given birth.
Yeah. And then I just remember like at the hospital, it was like a major hospital in town. So it was like they had the multi-story car park and you know. And so I just remember going, like leaving the hospital ward, and then I was like, so you're going to hold the baby so I can walk? Like, you know, most mums get like I didn't know this, but I was like, most mums get wheeled out in wheelchairs in movies. Like,
Yeah.
they get put on wheelchairs so they can hold their babies and then taken to the car. Like, you know, they get taken to the pickup drop-off zone or whatever.
Yeah.
You know? And so he was like, nah, I just parked in the multi-story. And so I was like, oh, okay. So I ended up having to walk all this way from the maternity suite into the big world. And it was like, it was summer, it was hot. And I was like, I just remember carrying this tiny little newborn baby, making sure my guts didn't spill out from underneath me, you know, like just trying to, you know. And then I just remember going in the car and I was like, I just want to go home. I want to go lay in bed. I want to, you know,
recover,
lay with my baby and like, you know, do all that kind of stuff. And then they were like, oh no, it's fine. We'll just go to Hungry Jack's on the way home. And there's another sponsor plug there, Hungry Jack's. Yeah. And so I was like, oh, okay. And the Hungry Jack's on the way home had speed humps like every single time. And if you've had a cesarean and like your entire body like ripped open to grab a baby out and then literally pack it all in like a plastics cupboard, you know, like, you know how
yes.
Yeah, like, you know, it's all packed in and just kind of like zipped back up again. Like,
well, I think either way, like
the last thing you want to do is sit in the back seat of the car with a newborn baby on like a 35-degree day and go through a flippin' drive-through. Just go get food and bring it back to me. I've just given life to your small human. Like,
yes,
you know, the least that you can do. I literally had my entire insides ripped out and then pulled back together. Anyway, yeah, so I went through, you know, and then ended up like just going back and laying in bed and then being like, oh, like, I'm exhausted. And then he just had the audacity to come back and be like, oh, I think you're depressed. And I was like, what makes you say that? Like, I'm not actually. And so I'd had like the nurse visit a few times while we were at home. And the nurse was like, you know, I had to show, obviously when you have a new baby, you show them where like the baby sleeps and all that kind of stuff. And they checked on all of that and they were like, oh yeah, you're fine.
Are we still in the share house?
No, I was living...
we had a little flat by this point.
No, we lived in a house but shared with his mum.
Right.
At that point, yeah.
And she wasn't helpful?
No.
Okay.
Like, you know, it's...
Yeah.
The alcoholic tendencies have to come from somewhere.
Yeah, okay.
You know, if it's a hereditary thing or alert behaviour, you know, it's a whole thing. So then we were just... I just remember like just being in this thing and it was so hot. I just remember shutting myself in the house for 2 weeks because I was like, well, 2 weeks are probably the most crucial times to be at home, like with a newborn baby.
Yeah.
It's like hot outside, so I'm not going to like take her outside and let her cook. You know, she's not a roast chicken, she's a baby. And so, yeah, so I just... Yeah, we'll just stay at home. And one of my sisters was doing uni at the uni across the road from me. And one day she was like, oh, I'm in between classes at the moment. Do you want to come over? And I was like, yeah, sure. And I just remember coming over and like, you know, literally just feeling like, oh, I don't have to hold this baby anymore because everyone else was holding her. Like she was like being passed around like a parcel. But I was like, oh, this is so nice to just sit under a tree and not have to worry about holding my baby. You know, no one else did that. But like that's how I became a mum, was like, you know, that. But then I just remember 6 or so months later, we lived in a little unit, just us, because I was like, I can't. Oh, no, it would have been, Scarlett would have been like maybe 6 weeks old at this point when we moved into the little unit with just us. And I just remember coming home one day after spending a weekend with Scarlett. She would have been maybe like 8 months old, I think.
Yeah.
And I'd spent the weekend with my sister and my mum and like everyone, like all my family, and like, you know, it was so nice because we just had family time, because within that cluster of time, there's like a bazillion birthdays all at once within the family. So it's nice to kind of, in between September, October, November, there's just like everyone decides to have their birthdays. And so I just remember just kind of hanging out with my parents and sleeping in their spare room, which was then my old bedroom. But I remember sleeping in my old bedroom and just having Scarlett. We just kind of like, she slept in the porta cot that was like set up next to the bed and all that kind of stuff. And she was like a little baby. And then like, I just kind of was like, oh, this is nice, because if I wanted to go have a shower, I didn't have to wait for her to be asleep to do that. I could just pass her off to my mum. And then I just remember going home. I'd gone to church, a different church. Oh, I can't even remember what church it was, but I went to church, like just a random church. I just picked a random church. And then I was like, I just like had this massive encounter of like, you just need to leave him. You just need to, leave him, let go and let God. And I was like, oh, like, God, I haven't spoken to you for ages, but you like, and now I'm going to cry because God's so amazing. But like, I was like, oh, okay. Like, what do I do? And then so it got to like 9 o'clock at night and I was like, oh, I should probably go home. I should probably face up to my problems, go home. And I remember going home and my ex was sitting on the bed, I don't know, doing something, maybe playing a game on his phone or something. And I just remember walking into the bedroom. I put Scarlett in her bed because she was asleep. It was late at night. I put her into her bed, shut her door, and I just walked into the bedroom and I sat down on the edge of the bed and I just kind of, on the way home, I prayed. Okay. So on the way home, before this all happened, I just remember like praying, and I just remember driving up this really windy road, and I was like, God, if this is your will for me, if you have a bigger and better plan for me, make this entire thing just happen and be done and be okay. Like, and I didn't know how else to pray. Like, I was like, oh my goodness, I'm like crying. I'm sorry.
Don't ever apologize. It's fine.
Okay. So like, yeah. And then I was like, just let it be done. Like, let it be easy. Let it just kind of like, the words come out of my mouth and he accepts it.
Because that would be miraculous, really. Because what we're talking about is somebody that essentially has isolated you from your family.
Yeah.
Has been abusive towards you, all of those things. Like, that's typically not an easy situation to get out of.
Yeah.
It would be miraculous for him to just accept you leaving.
Yeah. And so I just remember going home and then like I said before, putting Scarlett in her bed, shutting the door, sitting on the end of the bed. And I was like, I just remember going, oh, I need to talk to you. And he was like, oh, okay, what about? I'll put your phone down and I will talk to you. And I just remember sitting on the end of the bed and just going, this isn't working anymore for me. It's not working. I don't feel happy. We need to stop. Whatever this is going on. Like, we need to stop. It's like needs to end. And he was like, what does that mean? And I was like, well, I don't want to be with you anymore. And he was like, oh, okay. I'll call my mum in the morning and see if I can go stay with her. And I was like, yeah. Like, that was it. And then I just remember the next morning, we'd slept next to each other that night.
Yeah.
But we didn't talk to each other, had our backs turned. I tended to Scarlett whenever she woke up and all that kind of stuff. And then I remember going to a mother's group, like a group of friends that I'd met through the CAFS nurses. And we went we usually had lunch like once a week all together with all our babies and all that kind of stuff. And I remember going there and I was like, oh, I've got to drive all the way like far north. And they were like, what do you mean? And I was like, oh, they're like, where? And if you're listening, if you know where Port Wakefield is, I had to drive all the way from like from Blackwood to Port Wakefield. And I was like, I have to do that with the baby and do all that kind of stuff and just drop him off. And they were like, oh, why? I'm like, oh, I don't know. And I didn't want to tell them any details. So I was like, I don't know. He just felt like it, I suppose. Just kind
Go
of
to
left
visit his
it.
mum.
Yeah, like I'm like, I just wants to go stay with his mum. Like I just
He didn't even have his own car.
No, he didn't even. He was on his learners the entire time. Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't sigh. It's
Sorry.
over. It's over now. Yeah, so I just remember driving all the way to Port Wakefield, and like by some sort of miracle from God, it was like Scarlett slept the entire drive. And it took me 3.5 hours to get there and back all the way from the south of the city to Port Wakefield.
And how old was Scarlett at this point?
She was like 8 months old.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah. So she slept the entire way. And I was like, oh, great. Like, she's going to be horrible tonight. Like,
Yeah.
she's going to be like, she's not going to sleep. And I like, if you're listening to this and you've got a baby in your arms right now or whatever, or like in Jesse's case, poodles, sleepless nights are rough when you've got a baby and like,
Yeah.
you know,
They just wreck you.
yeah. Yeah, so I just kind of, I was like, oh, this is going to be horrid. Like, she's just going to not sleep that night and all that kind of stuff. And I was like, oh, whatever. It is what it is. I just remember going home, and I just remember going into my house, and it looked exactly the same as the way that I left it. Baby things, you know, here, there, and like, you know, having like little containers of food in the fridge and all that kind of stuff. Everything looked the same, but I felt like 1,000 kilos. That's like 1,000, like 1,000 kilos lighter.
Yeah.
And I just was like, it's done. Like, I've done it. Like, and then I was like, well, like, that was another thing was like, I want to surrender to God. Like, that was the beginning of like re-surrendering my life to God and like doing that kind of stuff. And I was like, but I'll do it loosely because, you know, I don't want to be tied down by having to go to church every Sunday. You know, it was one of those things like, oh, I don't want to have to like get up and on a Sunday morning. Like that's the day of rest. But I'm like, oh, Kirsty, you're an unemployed, now newly single mother. Like going to church on the Sunday is probably the best thing you could be doing for yourself.
Yes.
And I just remember like going to church the weekend after it happened. I remember seeing the pastor that was leading the church that weekend, and I literally just like walked in there and I just like cried.
Yeah.
And I just like was like, I didn't want to be this person. I didn't want to be this single mother. I didn't want to have the label of single mother, but here I am.
Yeah.
And I just remember having like a pep talk by this pastor, and he was like, but even though you've given yourself that label of single mum, single income, sole parent, whatever, you're still a child of God.
Yeah. It's not your most important label.
Yeah. And so I just kind of was like, oh, like I remember going home or going to my mum's or something, or like whatever. I can't even remember, but I said I remember, but I don't. I went somewhere afterwards, but I just remember, all I remember out of that entire thing was just like feeling like God's got me. It's okay.
Yeah.
And then I kind of like then was like, oh, well, I'll just like take advantage of this, because I was loosely going to church, but I was like not going to church, and I lived far away from all my Christian friends, and people were kind of like a little bit standoffish still towards me, and like,
you were worried that your friends didn't want your ex.
Yeah, like they didn't want him to like rock up. Like that's how I felt. Like they didn't want him to just like rock up to, you know, where we were. So I just didn't really bother hanging out with people that like
I was never worried.
Come away. I know you weren't. I think we had the most like play cafe meetups ever, and I was
just remember.
I don't think you realise my baby doesn't do anything.
I just remember, which is also the time I famously dropped your daughter, but because
she's okay now, guys.
Ellie's a year older.
Yeah.
And so we'd gone to the play cafe and I was used to, and it was like on a soft padded floor, so it wasn't really a big deal. But I put her down and
In
my
a ball pit, it was okay.
yeah, my daughter could stand up, so I just like put her down on her legs and she just kind of went whoop. But I don't know why. Like, it wasn't just the dropping Scarlet thing, but that day is one of those like just core memories for me, because I just felt like, oh, Kirsty's back.
Yeah.
And just, I think it was the first time I felt a real hope for your future, as opposed to just, I don't know, let's just keep loving her. Because I think you had this, like, this was probably a few months after he'd left, and you had this new mindset of like, actually, this is a really good thing, and you've always been such a good mum. Like, I think you're such a better mum than I am. Like, you've just always been
and I feel terrible because I'm missing a school performance next week, but that's okay.
Yeah, see, you feel terrible. I'd be like, woo, another performance that I have to sit through. No, see?
I was going to get you to go. No.
Okay, I'll go. You've always just been really intentional and such a good mum, and you just were like, yes, like, I don't know, I feel like after a couple of months you got this, like, I can do this kind of attitude, and it was really empowering and beautiful to see.
Yeah. I'm like, I think I'm being the youngest of 7, I'm very stubborn. And so, like, if I want something, I'll just keep going for it. So, like, the thing that I kind of, like, then surrounded myself with was, like, I then became a part of a single parent community.
Yeah.
That, like, I was able to then sound all of my frustrations and my guilts and all that kind of stuff as a new mum, not only a new mum, but then a new single mum.
Yeah.
Too. Like, I wasn't expecting, like, at this point I was 22, but I was like.
Which is so young. Like, I think about people that are 22 and I can't even think about them being married, let alone having children.
I have nieces and nephews that have passed 22 and I've just, like, still look at them and go,
it's such a baby.
I'm like, just hold on to it. Just, like, have fun. Like, still go, like, you know, be safe about your fun, but, like, have fun.
Well, yeah, being a parent changes you.
Yeah. So I just kind of was like, I just kind of grabbed the bull by its horns. But then at the same time, I used, like, so at one point we did, like, some sort of shared care. And, you know, Scarlett would go and have, like, a couple of nights at his house when he did have a house. And, like, when he was living somewhere, he'd, like, be there and then, you know, come back. And then I'd kind of use those as, oh, thank goodness, I've got kid-free time. And then one of my sisters, who was also a single parent at the time, we just kind of harness that as, like, oh, let's go party, let's go drink, let's go, you know, do silly things. Let's join Tinder and let's just kind of, like, randomly chat up, guys. Like, it wasn't a very fruitful moment of my life. I was a parent outside of this, but it was like, that wasn't my moment too.
Well, you were like, I don't know, you almost, I see it like, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, you're almost doing this bit of a dance with God where you're like, in the lead up to your ex leaving, you obviously really heard from the Lord, but you were also kind of living in the world.
Yeah.
You had this kind of back and forth going with Jesus.
Yeah. So it was just kind of like every second weekend I'd just be, because I was kid free, and I was like, oh, let's just have some drinks and we'll go to the beach and we'll go do this and blah, blah, blah. And maybe next weekend we'll go to the city and we'll go drink in the city. And I would always say, let's go do shisha, but then I couldn't, like, actually stand walking past. Like, it would always make me sick. So I'd be like, oh, well, we can't do shisha.
I don't think that's a thing anymore. I haven't been to the city in a very long time.
Vaping's illegal.
Was it vaping?
Yeah, essentially.
Oh.
Correct me if I'm wrong. If anyone hears this and then like goes, well, it's not, and you girls are idiots. I'm like, I've never done it.
Yeah,
I've just
well,
kind of walked
that
past.
just proves our innocence,
and it's
right?
made me feel sick every time I walk past. And so I'm like,
I was pretty sure it was like in the same way you would smoke a tobacco pipe. But again, I don't really know. So we're just speaking to our own innocence. But
yeah.
I think there's this experience as well of when you become a mum super young,
yeah.
you feel like you've kind of missed out on your 20s, which
Yeah.
are this like newfangled thing that didn't even exist till recently, because it was pretty normal 100 years ago to just
Yeah.
get married and have babies.
Yeah. And I thought like,
But all your friends are out partying and living their best lives.
yeah. And when I like fell pregnant with Scarlett, I thought, oh yeah, I'm fine. Because my mum did this at 19.
Yeah.
Like, like my mum did this at 19 and got married, and like then 18 months after having her first at 19, she had a second. Like,
Yeah.
you know, like that's crazy. Maybe it's not 18, maybe it's less, but like that's actually crazy.
Yeah.
You
But
know?
it was more normalised then.
Yeah, it was super normalized back then, which is like, it's nuts because I'm like, well, I couldn't, even though I became a mum at 21, like I still like look back and I'm like, what an idiot. Like I would not change like being a parent for the world.
There's also something brilliant about being in your 30s
Yeah.
and your children having a certain level of independence.
Yeah.
And looking forward to your 40s because your children will literally be adults.
Yeah.
I find that really
Yeah.
exciting.
So Scarlett will say to me throughout the week, every now and then, oh, because you're so old. I'm like, pfft.
Younger than most of your friends'
I'm
mums.
like, girlfriend, actually, I'm like, I'm actually younger than a lot of your friends' parents. Maybe not so much here, living here. But like,
yeah, but
back,
definitely in the Adelaide Hills, it was very unusual.
back where we lived, like, I just remember being like, there's a kid in your class that has parents the same age as my parents.
So to tie a bow on it, because we're at nearly an hour,
Yeah.
you eventually met your now husband.
Yeah. Like, it was, yeah.
It's not even eventually, like a few months later.
No, it was only like 8 or 9 months later after we'd separated.
Yeah.
My ex had,
Yeah.
and I had separated. And then it was, so this, we'd separated in like August. And then I met Richard in March, but then we didn't start dating until May.
Yeah.
Late May. And so, like, and he was just kind of like, he kind of was interested but not interested at the same time. So we'd like met up a few times and kind of like, and then I was like, oh, I remember once telling him, oh, I want to have photos. I just want, like, you know, because it's just me and Scarlett. I just kind of want to have photos with just me and Scarlett, and then that way I've got photos of her being like this little. And he was like, oh, well, my best friend, she's a photographer. So, like, you know,
I remember
like,
those photos.
yeah,
Your
like
house
my best
pages.
friend, she's a photographer, and like you should let her know. She'll only charge you $50 for however many prints you want.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, okay, that's all I can afford. I'm a single mum, like whatever. And then like we'd sort of loosely, not like unofficially, started seeing each other, and then so I just remember like being in a park, and she will be listening to this because she'll be able to reminisce, but she will be listening to this. I just remember going to the wetlands, and we were walking one day, and she was like, oh, so how do you know, are we mentioning husbands' names?
I don't know.
Oh, well, let's call him Bob.
Your current husband. We are at like probably nearly time.
Okay, all right.
So
Really
it's
quickly.
like-
Okay, how do you know Bob? And then she was like, I was like, so we're kind of seeing each other. And she was like, what? Really? He hasn't spoken to me about
Oh
that.
no, that's super awkward.
Anyway, yeah. So that's like, you know.
So
well,
you can go back and listen to our first podcast. It
Yeah.
basically then picks up the story with you guys getting married.
Yeah.
Woohoo.
Yeah. And yeah, so then we just kind of like, yeah, relationship from then.
Awesome. Well, if you've got this far, thank you. We're going to need a whole other episode about my story to motherhood.
Yeah.
But Yeah, God bless you all. See you, love you, bye.
Have fun, love you, bye. Make good choices. We've also got the edited bits.